Hi, I am Abhijit and I am a former engineer in TI India.
And I am Gaurang and I am an analog engineer in TI India.
So we hope the teams are in full preparation for submitting the document for the next round of the TI IICDC 2017-18. And today we wanted to sit down and discuss with you what is the requirement of the document and what is the expectation as an evaluator from TI. So that a little more clarity is gained and so that you can do a better job. So Gaurang, why don't we start?
So Abhijit, firstly the teams are expected to write a brief project abstract. So can you throw some light on how they can write a good abstract?
Sure. As you can see, teams are asked to write from 100 to 150 words, and rightly so, because an abstract should give a brief idea about what is it that you're trying to solve and how you're trying to solve it. And I believe that one sentence or two sentences maximum for each of those parts would suffice in an abstract, and as usual you can add the keywords at the end. So Gaurang, moving on, the next section asks the team members to provide roles and responsibilities for the various members.
Right.
So what do you make of that, and what is the expectation as an evaluator?
So clearly, Abhijit, to build a successful startup, the teams must clearly have a correct balance of skills amongst its various teams members. So the teams should clearly identify the various roles required for the nature of the project that they are doing, and then for the roles that they have identified, they should match it with the capabilities of the project team members. So yeah, that is what is expected out of them over here.
Correct, and rightly said. And I just wanted to add one example. Let's take a smart lighting device. A team is trying to make something like that, and if, for example, they mention that they have someone who will handle the digital marketing side, but they fail to mention that they need someone in to handle the production issues that might come up. So in that case, it would reflect very poorly on the way that you have thought through while answering this question, and you would not be given good marks for it. While on the other hand, if you have a very, like Gaurang said, a very good idea about what are the roles and what are the different members who will be assigned those roles, then I think you would score very highly in this
So the
regard.
next section is about the market analysis. It is very important that the teams clearly identify and study about the market. It has been further subdivided into 5 segments. So Abhijit, can you explain about the customer need identification?
Yeah, I think this is a very crucial sort of step because it talks about something that marketeers like to call the pain points of the customer. What exactly is the problem being faced by the customer currently? And if someone has a very clear idea about the pain points, then he will provide a product which will bring customer a huge amount of delight. While on the other hand, if the pain points are not clear to the team, then that team will end up working on an idea and trying to solve an imagined problem. So it is very important to have your actions and your plan aligned with the pain points that you're trying to solve. So I think that was what was required from these guys. Just a basic alignment of the workflow and the idea with the pain points that you're trying to solve. I think that would fetch you some good marks in this section. Right. So moving on, we see that Gaurang, the next section is the identification of the market. So from the perspective of a business plan, how important do you think this is, and as evaluators, what are the points that we are looking for in such an answer?
So Abhijit, once the team has identified that their product is actually solving a customer pain point, next step is to identify who will be the buyer of their product. They must clearly identify the market to which they will be selling the product. Their product may be applicable to the youth, may be applicable to the old age people of the society. Their product may be applicable to only a certain industry. So they must clearly identify that who will be the buyers of their product. Once they have identified that who are the buyers of their product, then they can think in their shoes and better design their product. This would eventually lead in customer delight, and the customer would end up in buying their product. So, like, I mean, if somebody is designing a product for everyone, eventually there would be no one buying their product.
Right.
Yeah. So, coming to the next section, Abhijit, it is about the product differentiation with respect to competition.
Right.
So, I mean, what are your views about this?
I think that I mean, it goes without saying that a well differentiated product would definitely create an edge in the market, right? So let's talk about an example. If for any given product the differentiating factor is the low cost, then it is a given notion that such a product would not be able to retain that edge, because eventually there would be other customers, right, who would try to catch up with your idea. But on the other hand, if the differentiating factor is a very novel way by which you're trying to reduce the pain point of the customer, then the customer would be retained, and you would be able to sustain that edge that you're trying to achieve. And in an evaluator's mind, I think a very well differentiated and clearly differentiated product would fetch you higher marks than a vaguely differentiated product any day, right? Gaurang, how important do you think is the understanding of your customer and user, and basically differentiating between the two?
Yeah, so it's a very tricky, and there is a very thin line between the customer and the user that teams might think at present. But in many cases, the customer and the user may be different for certain products, and it may be same. Like say if your product is a mobile phone, the customer and user is the same. The one who is paying for the mobile phone is the one who is using it. However, say if your product is a child safety bracelet kind of a thing, here the customer is the parent who is buying the product, and the user is the child. So basically, how a customer is defined is the one who pays for the product, and the user is the one who experiences the product. So the team must think of the experiences of both the customer and the user. Taking the example of the child safety bracelet, as a user it should be, I mean, comfortable. The child should not be able to just take it out of his hand and throw it away. From the customer's point of view, it should not be costly. Parent should be able to track his child. So like if you're building a product, you should clearly think of whether there is a different customer and a user, and if not, both are same or not. Right?
Right.
Yeah. So moving on to the next section, it's about the distribution channel identification. So as an evaluator, what do you think is expected out of the teams over here?
Well, what I would be looking at is the ease by which a product can be handed over to the end customer, or whatever the team is offering or the company is offering can be handed over. So if there are if there is a huge number of intermediaries involved in this process, if there are a lot of physical processes to be done in the middle, then definitely the revenue that is generated by the sale of this product would have to be distributed to a lot more other people, right? So the end amount of money that comes to the team or the company would be less. While on the other hand, if your product is being sold by a single sort of intermediary in the middle, for example, it's sold online, in that case a larger, or in fact quite a substantial amount of the revenue would be handed over to the company, right? So from an evaluator's point of view, such a equitable distribution, I would not say equitable, such a meaningful distribution of revenue which goes to the team, that would be rated high in an evaluator's mind, while on the other hand, the other example I gave would be definitely rated low. Right, so moving on, Gaurang, the next subheading of this document is the proposed design, which I believe talks about the technical aspects of the product, right? So why don't you walk us through it?
So Abhijit, to build a great product, the teams must have a very strong technical differentiation in the product. Otherwise, somebody can build it next day and catch up with it. So there should be very strong technical differentiation. So here the teams are expected to very briefly identify their solution. They should explain it using block diagrams.
Should they go in details in the block diagram, or is a system level enough?
A system level block diagram is expected out of them over here. I mean, they can divide their entire system into various subsystems and explain the various subsystems. They should not go in much depth, but yeah, a system level block diagram is sufficient. Apart from that, they should include the various algorithms that they are using. If they are using any additional softwares, it would be great if they have some simulation results available. That would.
What about coming up with the components for the power management?
That's a great question, Abhijit. So a lot of people face a lot of problems in designing these power circuits and all. So you would be amazed to know that TI has its own V-Bench software which makes it very easy for the user to design the circuitry. The user can just directly input the parameters, like say I have a 5 volt input and 5 volt 1 ampere 5000 mAh battery and I need 3.3 volt out of it. It will give you thousands of options to how this circuit can be built with various combinations of ICs and depending on the footprint size, depending on the efficiency and everything. So depending on the end product that is being built, the team can choose whichever set of ICs and combination they want to choose.
I believe power management has always been an issue with college students who are trying to come up with a design, right? So, and I think V-Bench would do a great job, right? Yeah. Okay. So the next section is the components used, and I think there are two tables, one which asks you to list down the TI components and the other one the non-TI parts. And a little heads up on this, we always recommend you, in fact strongly recommend you, that you try to use TI components. If you have an option between two parts trying to solve the same problem in your circuit, then always go for the TI part. And for that you can always go to the TI website and have a look at the TI portfolio. I believe that for any common problem or function of a circuit, you have multiple options from the TI portfolio that you can look into. So I think the TI components is the last section in this part, and we should move on. So Gaurang, how important do you think is the innovativeness of a particular product, especially while trying to frame a business plan?
It is, to sustain in market, innovation is really important. You will not be able to sustain for long if you don't have any differentiation in your product. And differentiation should also be on very strong grounds. As we cited earlier, if your differentiation is only on the cost, that would not stay for very long. Tomorrow somebody else would come and sell it at a lower price and throw you out of the market. So you should have a very strong technical differentiation, or differentiation in terms of your marketing strategy, differentiation in terms of your distribution channel. Somewhere there should be very strong differentiation
and innovation as well,
uniqueness, and which in turn results in innovation. Only then you can sustain in the market. Right. So basically this section deals with the innovation that you are bringing in your product. Right. So, and Abhijit, so the next section is the what is the impact of the solution that the team is bringing?
When we talk about impact of a particular solution, I think over here what we are trying to understand is what business impact are you trying to bring. If the product that a team is trying to bring to the market, if that tries to de-establish the existing way of doing business completely, then I think it would be a very difficult sort of a task for a novice team. While on the other hand, if a team is trying to make breakthrough in the market using the existing ways of doing business, but while at the same time capitalizing with their novel approaches, then I think they would be able to make a greater impact. When you ask impact, I think this is the type of impact that teams should look forward to.
So,
Yeah.
what do you think about somebody who's thinking of very ambitious idea? I mean, the idea is ambitious, but if it comes to reality, it's breakthrough. It would bring, I mean, revolution to the market. So, what kind of idea?
Well, if we have to talk about this, we also have to talk about the feasibility aspect of a product, right? How feasible is it? How well can you bring it actually to the market? I mean, at the end of the day, all that matters is you bring it to the market and you gain revenue, right? So, like I said, if you're trying to de-establish the given state of affairs in a very radical sort of a way, you're going to face not only a customer's resistance but also a discomfort from the existing competitors, and that would make your life a little difficult, especially in the initial days. So, from an evaluator's perspective, I would again go back to what I already said earlier, that if a team tries to capitalize on the existing ways of doing business with their innovative breakthroughs, then I think it would create a greater impact. And I think from an evaluator's point, that team would be getting more points instead of trying to make a radical sort of an approach, because we have to understand that the teams that are trying to do this radical approach are new in the game, and they would be up against some very well established competitors. So things have to be taken cautiously, but at the same time, I mean, the innovation quotient that you talked about previously, that must not be lost sight of. So it's a balance that I think the teams must aim for. Right, so Gaurang, we've come to the end of the discussion on the specified format of the submission. So, before we sign off, any general points that you would like to put forward?
One point I would definitely like to make is that at this stage of competition, we are not directly seeing the teams face to face. The only way we know the teams is through these questions that we see. So it is really important for the teams to articulate their questions well. They should like include a lot of block diagrams. They should include a lot of like detailed circuit explanations and all these things, so that we can judge them properly. The presentation really matters a lot.
Right, and talking about presentation, try to include pictures or diagrams wherever possible, because first of all, it looks neat, and secondly, like they say, a picture speaks 1,000 words, right? So, guys, that's about it from our end. We hope you've had a lot of fun. We definitely had a lot of fun.
And hope you gained something out of this session.
Definitely. So, all the best. We are ready to get blown away by your ideas and business plans.
We are eagerly waiting to see your submissions.
So, that's us signing off. Thank you, everyone, and thanks for joining in. Bye.